drugs. We were lost. And me and my stupid hippie friends used to walk by his house, and his wife, Kay, who's here tonight, would pray for us. And she had the original vision to reach our generation. Chuck was a little reluctant. He thought we all collectively needed a haircut and a bath. They were the perfect combination. And after I accepted Christ, actually, on my high school campus, and started attending Calvary, I was in an art class, and the assignment was to draw a cartoon strip. Well, that's what I did all the time. In fact, my goal in life was to be a cartoonist, and I drew this little booklet based on a sermon Chuck gave from John chapter 4 on the conversation with Jesus and the woman at the well. So I just thought it would be a good idea to walk over to Chuck's house, knock on his door, and introduce myself. Kind of crazy, you know, and I knocked on his door, and he opens it up. I said, "Hi, Chuck, I'm Greg Laurie, and I drew this little cartoon track based on your sermon," and he liked it so much, he said, "Greg, I want to print this up and give them out to people, so redraw them and put it in this different little format that will fit, and we'll print them up." And we did. And they printed up a few thousand, and they were gone in a couple of days, and we printed up 100,000, and they were gone in a few more days, and I think 1 million of those things went around the world. Why would anybody give a kid like me an opportunity like that? I have no idea. Fast forward a few years. I'm 19 years old. I'm doing a Bible study in Riverside. It's turning into a church. I hardly felt qualified, but I did feel called. And as it was shared earlier, Chuck wrote that first check and made it possible for us to establish that church that just celebrated 40 years of ministry, Harvest Christian Fellowship. Fast forward a bunch more years, and I was doing a Monday night Bible study at Calvary Chapel of Costa Mesa. And Chuck had this vision of doing it in a larger venue. And so he said, "Greg, I think we should take what you're doing on Mondays and let's do a crusade, like a Billy Graham crusade." And he said, "And I want you to preach at it." And I thought he was crazy. Maybe he was. But I said, "Chuck, where do you want to do it?" He said, "The Pacific Amphitheater." I said, "Chuck, that's a really big place." He said, "Oh, Greg, we serve a very big God." And he was right. Every significant ministry opportunity that came in my life came through Chuck Smith. And I thank God for him and his influence on me and the men on the platform and all of you as well. I was having lunch with Chuck a few years ago, and I asked him the question. I always asked him crazy questions. I said, "Chuck, if an older Chuck could speak to a younger Chuck, what would he say? What advice would the Chuck of today give the Chuck who was just starting out in ministry?" He looked at me for a moment, and then he said, "I would say hold the course." I said, "What do you mean, Chuck?" He said, "I would say hold the course." "You mean hold the course in the Christian life? Just hold the course." And he held his course. And now he's finished his course. And I think of the words of the Apostle Paul in 2 Timothy 4, when he says, "I'm already being poured out as a drink offering, and the time of my departure is at hand. I've fought the good fight. I've finished the race. I've kept the faith. Finally, there is laid up for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will give to me in that day, and not to me only, but to all who love his appearing." This was Paul's final epistle. In effect, these were his last words. Some 30 years had passed since the Apostle Paul, then known as Saul, met the risen Christ on the Damascus Road. He's looking back at his life. He's summing it up. He has no regret. He has no remorse. He knew his departure was soon. He knew he was going to leave this world. In fact, the word that Paul uses here for departure is an interesting one. It can be translated to strike the tent. Sort of the idea when the soldiers would be camping, they would strike the tent. You know, Chuck loved camping. He loved camps. I remember being at the Idlewild camp before Calvary purchased Twin Peaks and Marietta, and I was just a young kid at that point, and And I was a prankster before I was a Christian, but I thought I would have to forsake all of that and be super serious now. And so I was sitting at a table with Chuck, and I drank all my punch, and I said, Pastor Chuck, could you pour me some more punch? Oh, right, sure, you know. So he took the punch, and he started to pour. I'm watching it go in my cup and saying, Pastor Chuck's pouring my punch. Look at the punch, it's filling the cup, and now the cup is almost full, and it's full, and he just kept pouring. Now it's overflowing, it's on my hand, it's on my arm, and I'm going, this is a spiritual lesson. He's teaching. My cup runneth over. What is it meaning? And then he just started laughing, and I realized it was a prank. It was a revelation to me. I can still goof off and be a Christian? Yes! That was Chuck. Striking the 10.